The world does not reward the virtuous. It devours them. While you sleep believing that goodness protects you, that honesty shields you, that your intentions matter, others are studying your patterns, cataloging your predictability, and positioning themselves to exploit the very qualities you consider strengths. You are not safe because you are good. You are vulnerable because you are transparent. Let me be direct with you. There are 3 weaknesses, 3 fatal errors in judgment that transform a person from player to prey, from strategist to victim, from someone who shapes their destiny to someone whose fate is decided by others. These are not moral failings in the traditional sense. They are tactical deficiencies that signal to everyone around you that you can be used, manipulated, and discarded. And the most dangerous aspect, you likely believe these weaknesses are actually virtues. I have watched princes fall, republics crumble, and empires dissolve, not because of external invasion, not because of superior enemies, but because those in power possessed certain qualities that made them targets. The assassin's blade finds its mark not in the armor's weak point, but in the predictability of the man wearing it. The coup succeeds not through military might, but through the conspirator's understanding of the ruler's emotional architecture. You live in a world that has convinced you to be weak and call it strength, to be exploitable and call it kindness, to be strategically blind and call it authenticity. Meanwhile, those who understand power's true mechanics move through life like sharks through water, efficient, purposeful, and always feeding. The first weakness, unconditional trust. You trust too easily. More precisely, you trust without strategy, without purpose, without understanding that trust itself is a currency that loses all value when spent without calculation. Listen carefully. Every person you encounter is operating from their own center of self-interest. This is not cynicism. This is the foundational truth of human nature. The baker sells you bread not because he loves you, but because he loves his profit. The friend who listens to your troubles does so because your vulnerability makes them feel powerful, needed, or superior. Your colleague who smiles at you daily is measuring whether you are an asset, a threat, or irrelevant to their advancement. Yet you extend trust as if it were infinite, as if good intentions protect you from bad outcomes, as if the universe rewards your openness with reciprocal honesty. Consider the Duke of Milan, Galeazzo Maria Sforza, a man of considerable power, wealth, and military strength. He trusted his closest advisors, his inner circle, his childhood companions. He believed that loyalty was something earned through generosity and familiarity. On December 26, 1476, 3 men he considered friends, Giovanni Andrea Lampignani, Carlo Visconti, and Gerolamo Olgietti, stabbed him to death in the church of Santo Stefano, 26 wounds. His trust became the very mechanism of his murder. But you are not a duke, you say. You do not command armies or govern provinces. Precisely. Which means you are even more vulnerable. Because while a duke's betrayal makes history, yours merely makes someone else's career advancement possible. Your colleague gains your trust, learns your strategies, and presents them as their own to management. Your friend learns your insecurities and weaponizes them during moments of social competition. Your romantic partner studies your emotional patterns and uses them to maintain control while investing their genuine affection elsewhere. The question is not whether people will exploit your trust. The question is why you make it so effortless for them. Understand this distinction. I am not advocating for paranoia. Paranoia is fear without intelligence. I am advocating for strategic trust, which is something entirely different. Strategic trust means you understand that every relationship is a negotiation, every confidence shared is information surrendered, and every moment of vulnerability is either an investment or a liability, depending on the character of the person witnessing it. When you trust unconditionally, you signal that you do not understand power dynamics. You announce to everyone around you that you believe the world operates on principles of fairness and reciprocity. This makes you a target, not because people are inherently evil, but because you have just demonstrated that you are strategically incompetent. And in the calculus of survival and advancement, the strategically incompetent exist to be used by the strategically competent. The powerful do not trust, they verify. They create situations where people's true nature reveals itself through action, not declaration. They understand that a person's character is not what they claim in comfort, but what they choose when benefit and morality conflict. They construct elaborate tests disguised as casual interactions, watching carefully to see who can be trusted with small things before ever revealing anything of true importance. You must learn to see trust not as a gift you give, but as a privilege others must earn through demonstrated alignment of interest and proven reliability over time. Your trust should be expensive. Not everyone deserves access to your vulnerabilities, your plans, your true thoughts. In fact, very few people deserve this access. And until they have proven themselves worthy through repeated demonstrations of loyalty under conditions where betrayal would have been advantageous to them, you owe them nothing more than pleasant professionalism. When you trust without testing, you hand others the blueprint to your destruction. You show them exactly where to apply pressure, exactly what promises will make you compliant, exactly what fears will make you paralyzed. You transform yourself from a complex strategic problem into a simple mechanical process, insert the right words, extract the desired outcome. The second weakness, telegraphing your intentions, you announce what you are going to do before you do it. You declare your ambitions, broadcast your strategies, and reveal your plans as if transparency were a virtue in itself. This is perhaps the most suicidal habit of the modern individual. Every word you speak about your future actions is a weapon you hand to your competitors. Every goal you announce publicly is an opportunity you give others to obstruct you. Every ambition you share openly is an invitation for those around you to position themselves between you and your objective. The general who announces his battle strategy to the enemy deserves to lose. Yet you do this daily without recognizing the consequences. Why do you do this? Because you have been taught that authenticity means constant disclosure. That being real means narrating your internal experience in real time. That sharing your journey makes you relatable, vulnerable, human, and perhaps it does. But it also makes you defeatable. Consider the nature of competition. For positions, for resources, for status, for romantic partners, for anything of value in this world. The person who wins is rarely the person with the best plan. It is the person whose plan remains invisible until its execution is already inevitable. The chess master does not announce checkmate 3 moves before it occurs. He allows his opponent to believe the game is still in question until the moment of irreversible defeat. When you tell your colleague you are pursuing a promotion, you give them time to undermine you subtly, to plant doubts about your capability, to position themselves as the safer choice. When you tell your social circle about a business idea, you create potential competitors who now have months to implement your vision before you have even begun. When you announce you are leaving an unhealthy relationship, you give the other person time to manipulate circumstances, to create dependencies, to construct narratives that paint you as the villain. Look at how power actually operates in the world. The corporate takeover is announced only after all shares are acquired. The political alliance is revealed only after the votes are secured. The military operation begins with surprise, not with press conferences explaining the strategy weeks in advance. But you post your New Year's resolutions publicly. You announce your diet plans, your business ventures, your relationship status changes, your career ambitions, your personal transformations. You believe this public declaration creates accountability. What it actually creates is a detailed map of your vulnerabilities and a timeline for others to exploit them. The problem compounds because in announcing your intentions, you also reveal your values, your priorities, and your fears. If I know what you are trying to achieve, I now understand what matters to you. If I understand what matters to you, I know exactly how to manipulate you. Want the promotion? I will make you believe I support you while ensuring decision makers hear about every minor mistake. Want to start a business? I will offer enthusiastic encouragement while quietly pursuing the same clients. Want to leave your partner? I will help them understand exactly what emotional buttons to press to make you doubt yourself. Silence is not deception. Silence is strategy. The intelligent person understands that revelation is a tool to be used purposefully, not a reflex to be indulged constantly. You speak only when speech serves your interests. You reveal only what serves your objective. You announce only what benefits from being known. This does not mean you lie. Lying is for the incompetent who believe deception is equivalent to strategy. No, you simply understand that not every truth needs to be shared, not every plan needs to be discussed, and not every thought deserves external expression. The powerful operate in layers. They have public positions, private positions, and actual positions. The public position is what they say in settings where anyone might hear. The private position is what they share with supposed allies and confidants. The actual position is what they truly believe and plan, known only to themselves and perhaps one or two individuals whose loyalty has been tested beyond any reasonable doubt. You, meanwhile, collapse all three layers into one and wonder why you keep getting outmaneuvered by people you consider less intelligent, less capable, less deserving than yourself. Learn this: your ambitions are precious. Treat them as such. Guard them. Protect them. Reveal them only when revelation serves their achievement, not simply because you feel the urge to share. The person who can control their speech can control their destiny. The person who cannot remains forever at the mercy of those who can. The third weakness: consistency without adaptation. You pride yourself on your consistency. Your values do not change. Your word is your bond. You are the same person in every context, with every individual, in every situation. You believe this makes you trustworthy, reliable, admirable. What it actually makes you is predictable, and predictability is death. The natural world teaches this lesson with brutal clarity. The animal that follows the same path to the watering hole every day eventually meets the predator who has learned its pattern. The plant that cannot adapt to changing seasons dies, while more flexible species survive. The species that remains unchanged while its environment transforms becomes extinct. Yet you insist on rigidity and call it integrity. Listen, I am not suggesting you abandon your core interests or betray your fundamental objectives. I am telling you that the path to those objectives must remain fluid, adaptive, and responsive to changing circumstances. The person who insists on using the same strategy in different contexts is not principled. They are stupid. Your consistency makes you exploitable because everyone around you can predict your response to any given situation. Your boss knows that appealing to your work ethic will make you accept unreasonable demands. Your family knows that invoking guilt will make you sacrifice your interests for theirs. Your romantic partner knows that threatening abandonment will make you compliant. Your friends know that challenging your self-image as a good person will make you act against your own benefit. You are not a person to these people. You are a machine. They know which buttons produce which outcomes. They know that input X will generate output Y with reliable consistency. This makes you useful to them, but it does not make you powerful. Consider Cesare Borgia, whose very name became synonymous with strategic ruthlessness. When he needed to establish order in Romagna, he appointed Ramiro di Orco, a cruel, efficient administrator who terrorized the population into submission. Once order was established, did Borgia continue this strategy? No! He recognized that the same approach that created stability would eventually create rebellion. So he had Ramiro executed publicly, displaying his body in the town square. The people who moments before feared Borgia's cruelty now saw him as their liberator from tyranny. Same objective, order and control. Completely different strategy based on changed circumstances. but you would have stuck with consistency. You would have defended Ramiro out of loyalty. You would have maintained the same approach, because changing it would seem like weakness or inconsistency. And you would have eventually faced rebellion because you mistook strategic stupidity for moral integrity. The person who adapts is not weak. They are intelligent. They understand that different contexts demand different approaches, that what works with one person fails with another, that the strategy that succeeded yesterday may fail tomorrow. That power lies not in rigid adherence to predetermined patterns, but in the ability to read circumstances accurately and respond effectively. Your colleague who is friendly to the boss but dismissive to subordinates is not two-faced. They are strategic. They understand that different relationships serve different functions and require different approaches. Your competitor who projects confidence with clients but admits uncertainty with advisors is not dishonest. They are contextually intelligent. Your friend who is generous in public but calculating in private is not hypercritical. They are effective. Meanwhile, you insist on being authentic, the same person everywhere, with everyone, always. You share your doubts with people who will use them as evidence of your incompetence. You maintain the same boundaries with manipulators that you maintain with genuine allies. You apply the same ethical standards to people who view ethics as obstacles to be circumvented. This is not virtue. This is strategic self-destruction. Understand that adaptation is not abandonment of self. It is recognition that you exist in multiple contexts simultaneously, and effectiveness requires different presentations of self in different contexts. The version of you that succeeds in corporate negotiations may not be the version that succeeds in intimate relationships. The approach that gains respect from competitors may not be the approach that maintains loyalty from allies. The strategy that works during stability may fail catastrophically during crisis. The person who cannot adapt remains perpetually reactive, responding to changing circumstances with the same limited toolset, wondering why their principled consistency keeps producing failure. The person who adapts proactively anticipates circumstances, prepares multiple strategies, and deploys the appropriate response to achieve their objective regardless of external conditions. Your predictability tells others exactly how to contain you, how to manipulate you, how to defeat you. They do not need to be smarter than you. They do not need to be more capable than you. They simply need to understand your patterns better than you understand theirs. And because you refuse to change those patterns, you make their job effortless. The architecture of vulnerability. Now you see the pattern. These three weaknesses, unconditional trust, telegraphed intentions, and rigid consistency, share a common foundation. They all stem from a fundamental misunderstanding about how power operates in human systems. You believe that the world rewards goodness. That honesty creates trust. That consistency generates respect. That transparency builds relationships. That being real attracts genuine connections. These are comforting lies that make your exploitation more palatable to you. The world rewards effectiveness. Trust is created through strategic reliability, not through naive openness. Respect comes from demonstrated capability combined with protective unpredictability. Relationships are built on mutual interest alignment, not on emotional disclosure. Genuine connections form between people who understand power dynamics and choose partnership over competition based on calculated advantage. Every weakness I have described makes you a target because each one signals to others that you do not understand these fundamental realities. You have announced through your behavior that you are operating with an incorrect model of how human systems actually function. This makes you an opportunity for those who do understand, and here is what you must grasp. Those who exploit these weaknesses in you are not necessarily evil. They are simply more realistic about human nature than you are. They recognize that in a world of limited resources, limited positions, and limited status, every interaction is a negotiation. Every relationship has a power dynamic. Every exchange involves calculation, even when wrapped in the language of friendship, loyalty, or love. You can condemn this reality. You can wish it were different. You can insist that it does not apply to you because you are different, special, operating from higher principles. But while you are busy maintaining your beautiful illusions, others are busy achieving their objectives, often at your expense. The path forward. So what do you do with this knowledge? How do you transform from target to player, from prey to predator, from someone whose fate is decided by others to someone who decides their own destiny? You begin by accepting that self-protection is not selfishness. That strategic thinking is not cruelty. That understanding power dynamics is not corruption. These are tools. They are neither moral nor immoral in themselves. They become moral or immoral based on what objectives you pursue with them. You learn to give trust in small increments, testing reliability before increasing investment. You observe how people behave when they believe you are not watching. You notice what they do when betraying you would be advantageous to them, but they choose loyalty anyway. You create situations where their true priorities reveal themselves through action, not through words. You practice silence. You learn to listen more than you speak. You guard your plans until execution makes them obvious. You discuss your ambitions only with people whose success is genuinely tied to yours, and even then, you reveal only what they need to know to serve your mutual objective. You develop flexibility. You study different approaches to achieving your goals. You learn to read contexts accurately and respond appropriately. You become comfortable with the fact that different situations demand different versions of yourself, and this does not make you false. It makes you effective. Most importantly, you stop believing that the world owes you fairness. It does not. You stop expecting that goodness will protect you. It will not. You stop assuming that your intentions matter more than your outcomes. They do not. The world is a battlefield of interests, ambitions, and competing visions of how resources should be allocated. You can pretend this is not true and remain a casualty. Or you can accept this reality and learn to navigate it effectively. The final truth here is what separates those who complain about how the world should be from those who succeed in the world as it actually is: the willingness to see clearly and act accordingly. You have been carrying weaknesses that make you a target. Not because you are bad, but because you are naive. Not because you lack ability, but because you lack strategy. Not because you deserve exploitation, but because you make exploitation effortless. The choice before you is simple. Continue believing that virtue protects you while others, who understand power, continue to use you as a stepping stone to their objectives. Or recognize that these weaknesses, unconditional trust, telegraphed intentions, and rigid consistency, are not marks of good character, but signs of strategic incompetence. And understand this: those who will exploit these weaknesses in you sleep soundly at night. They do not question their actions. They do not feel guilty about outmaneuvering you. Because in their view of the world, the realistic view, they are simply playing the game more effectively than you are. They are using available resources. They are pursuing their interests. They are doing what intelligent, strategic people do. The only question that matters is this: will you continue to be the resource others use? Or will you finally understand that power, influence, and control over your own destiny require you to stop being predictable, stop being transparent, and stop trusting without verification? The world does not care about your answer. It will continue regardless. But your life, your actual experience of existence, depends entirely on which path you choose. Choose strategically, because everyone around you already is.